Most people think the Birkin bag became one of the most famous luxury products in the world because of craftsmanship, and yes, Hermès uses extremely high-quality leather, handmade production, and some of the best artisans in luxury fashion. But craftsmanship alone does not explain why people are willing to spend the price of a house on a handbag. Because in reality, the Birkin bag was never just a handbag. It became something much more powerful than that. For wealthy people, the Birkin represents status, access, exclusivity, and social positioning. It's one of the few products in the world that quietly communicates wealth without looking desperate for attention. And that's exactly why the richest people became obsessed with it. The strange part is that Hermès never built the Birkin like a traditional luxury product. Most luxury companies want as many customers as possible. They want visibility, they want expansion, they want growth at scale. Hermès took the opposite approach. Instead of making the Birkin easier to buy, the company intentionally made it difficult. And that decision transformed a leather bag into one of the most powerful status symbols on earth. Today, there are people who spend years trying to get one. Some customers develop relationships with sales associates for months before they are even offered the opportunity to purchase a Birkin. Others spend tens of thousands of dollars on smaller Hermès products just to improve their chances of eventually getting access to the bag they actually want. And somehow, this system only made the product more desirable, because the moment people feel excluded from something, the value of that thing changes psychologically. The Birkin bag operates on a completely different set of rules than normal consumer products. Most companies try to remove friction from the buying process. They want fast shipping, one-click checkout, instant gratification. Hermès understands that wealthy customers often want the opposite. In luxury, difficulty itself can become part of the appeal. If everyone can buy something instantly, it stops feeling special. That's why scarcity is one of the most important forces in luxury culture, and few brands in history have mastered scarcity better than Hermès. The story of the Birkin bag started in the early 1980s when actress Jane Birkin met the CEO of Hermès during a flight from Paris to London. According to the story, she complained that most handbags were impractical and too small for everyday life. During that conversation, the concept for a large leather travel style bag was sketched out, and eventually the Birkin was born. At first, it was simply considered an expensive luxury handbag, but over time, something much bigger happened. The bag slowly evolved into a social signal for elite wealth, and this transformation had very little to do with fashion itself. Most people misunderstand how status works among the wealthy. Middle-class status is usually built around visibility, big logos, flashy branding, expensive-looking products designed to attract attention from as many people as possible. But truly, wealthy circles operate differently. At the highest levels of wealth, status becomes quieter, more subtle, more coded. The point is no longer to impress everybody. The point is to signal membership to a very specific group of people who already understand the meaning behind certain products. The Birkin became perfect for this world because it doesn't scream for attention. To most people, it's just a handbag. But inside luxury culture, everybody understands what it represents. And that subtle recognition is incredibly valuable, because wealthy people are not simply buying products anymore. They are buying identity, positioning, social confirmation. At a certain level of wealth, money itself stops being interesting. If everyone around you already owns mansions, watches, private drivers, and investment portfolios, then luxury consumption changes psychologically. The real value comes from obtaining things that remain inaccessible to most people, even wealthy people. That's where Hermès became genius. The company understood that the feeling of exclusivity is often more powerful than the product itself. This is why you usually cannot simply walk into an Hermès boutique and purchase a Birkin on demand. In many stores, the bags are not even displayed publicly. Customers often need purchase history, relationships with sales staff, or long-term loyalty before they are offered one. Think about how unusual that is. Imagine entering a store willing to spend $20,000 only to discover that your money alone is not enough. For most businesses, that would be a terrible strategy. For Hermès, it became the foundation of the entire brand. Because being rejected creates desire, and being selected creates emotional attachment. The customer begins to feel that ownership itself represents achievement. Suddenly, the bag is no longer just leather and stitching. It becomes proof that you gained access to a restricted world. Psychologically, humans are extremely sensitive to exclusion. We naturally assign more value to things that appear limited or socially restricted. Private clubs feel prestigious because not everybody gets in. Invitation-only events feel important because access access is controlled. The Birkin uses the exact same psychology, and the more difficult Hermès made the process, the stronger the obsession became. What's fascinating is that the Birkin eventually stopped behaving like a fashion product altogether. In many cases, it started functioning more like an investment asset. Rare models appreciated dramatically in value over time. Certain exotic leather editions sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars through luxury auctions. Some collectors treated Birkin bags the same way wealthy investors treat watches, jewelry, or art collections, and this only increased the mythology around the product. Because now the Birkin was not just expensive, it was financially symbolic. Owning one communicated that you had reached a level of wealth where spending enormous amounts of money on non-essential objects felt completely normal. But the deeper truth is even more interesting. The Birkin is successful because it solves an emotional problem for wealthy people, and that problem is status anxiety. Most people assume rich individuals stop caring what others think once they become wealthy. In reality, status competition often becomes even more intense inside elite social circles, because once basic financial success is achieved, people begin competing in more subtle ways. Taste becomes status. Exclusivity becomes status. Scarcity becomes status. Access becomes status. And luxury products become tools for communicating all of those things without directly talking about money. That's why many wealthy consumers prefer quiet luxury over loud branding. Obvious displays of wealth can actually look insecure in elite circles. Truly powerful status symbols are often invisible to ordinary people and instantly recognizable to insiders. The Birkin sits perfectly inside that category. It doesn't need giant logos or aggressive marketing because its reputation already functions as social currency, and Hermès protects that reputation obsessively. The company carefully controls production numbers. It limits availability. It avoids oversaturation. It refuses to turn the Birkin into a mass market product, even though doing so could generate enormous short-term revenue. Most corporations would chase maximum expansion immediately. Hermès understands that unlimited growth destroys luxury. The moment everybody can access a status symbol, it stops functioning as one. That's why luxury brands spend so much time protecting exclusivity, because exclusivity is what creates emotional value in the first place. Without scarcity, a Birkin becomes just another expensive bag. With scarcity, it becomes a symbol of hierarchy, and hierarchy is one of the oldest obsessions in human society. In many ways, the Birkin reflects how wealth itself has evolved in the modern world. The richest people are no longer just buying comfort or utility, they are buying separation, products that create distance between themselves and the average consumer. This is why so many luxury industries operate around waiting lists, private access, invitation systems, and hidden products. The restriction itself becomes part of the emotional experience. People want what feels difficult to reach, especially when access appears socially selective, and Hermès built one of the most effective status systems ever created around that idea. The brilliance of the Birkin is that it quietly combines multiple psychological forces at the same time: scarcity, social proof, exclusivity, financial signaling, identity reinforcement, tribal recognition, emotional aspiration. Very few products manage to achieve all of those things simultaneously, which is why the obsession continues growing even decades after the bag was originally created. Because despite all the conversations about leather quality or craftsmanship, wealthy customers are not really buying a handbag. They are buying entry into a specific social narrative, a narrative that says they belong inside a world defined by exclusivity, access, and elite taste. And Hermès understands something most companies never will. In luxury, the most valuable thing you can sell is not the product itself, it's the feeling that not everybody deserves it.